Last night, my entire marriage detonated right in front of me. What was supposed to be a normal dinner with my husband, Carlos, and his college friends, Alex and Becky, turned into a public execution of my dignity. We were at this brand new spot downtown, the kind Carlos had been hyping up for months. The place was electric, absolutely packed. Some local team must have one because the energy was buzzing, drinks were flowing, and honestly, I was having a decent time at first. Even though I always felt a little out of place with his college crowd, I was used to it. I mostly just listened to their old war stories, laughing politely, trying to blend in. Then Alex asked the most innocent question. How did you two meet? A simple, harmless prompt. But the moment the words left his mouth, I saw Carlos's whole vibe shift. He got this look, a mix of smugness and pure annoyance. I opened my mouth to answer, but he cut me off. Oh, she basically begged me to date her, he said, following it with this dismissive eye roll that just chilled me. My wine glass was halfway to my lips, and I froze. The table went silent. I thought, maybe he's joking. A bad joke, but a joke. But then he kept going. Look at her. He practically sneered, gesturing at me like I was some exhibit. Desperate, average, and lucky I was bored enough to say yes. Alex and Becky managed a few awkward, stifled laughs, the kind people make when they have no idea how to react to something truly inappropriate. I didn't laugh. I couldn't. My face was burning, and I was gripping my wine glass so tight I thought it would shatter in my hand. He wasn't done. The waiter had just brought our appetizers, and everyone was reaching for food, probably trying to move past the horrifying moment. But not Carlos. Honestly, he continued, taking a slow sip of his whiskey, I'm only still with her because I don't have time to train someone hotter. Alex looked at Carlos, a low, damn bro escaping his lips. It wasn't exactly a challenge, but at least it acknowledged the messed up reality of what he'd just said. Becky suddenly found her phone utterly fascinating, scrolling like her life depended on it. No one told him to stop. I just sat there, utterly humiliated, trying to make sense of it all. Was this really my husband? The same man who, just last week, had told me he loved me? Carlos, what the hell? I finally managed to croak out. He turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before, like he was looking at something disgusting stuck to the sole of his shoe. Then he turned back to Alex and Becky. See what I mean? So sensitive. Can't take a joke. He rolled his eyes again. This is what I deal with every single day. Alex cleared his throat. Maybe we should change the subject. But Carlos was on a roll, fueled by 3 whiskeys before the food even hit the table and the captive audience. You know what's funny? He continued louder now. When we first met, she acted all confident and independent. Then once we got married, boom, clingy, needy, always asking where I am, who I'm texting. I stared at him, completely blindsided. Carlos, stop. What? I'm just being honest. They're my friends. They deserve to know the real you. He turned back to them. She thinks I don't see how she checks my phone when I'm in the shower. I had never, not once, checked his phone. The accusation made me feel physically sick. Becky finally piped up. Maybe we should order more drinks? Her attempt to defuse the situation fell flat as Carlos waved her off. No, I'm just getting to the good part, he insisted. You want to know why I really married her? No one answered. No one stopped him. He leaned in, his gaze locking with mine now. Let's be real. No one else wants her. I'm doing her a favor. Something inside me just snapped. 5 years of marriage, countless memories, all the love I thought we shared. It all collapsed into dust in that single brutal moment. Without saying a word, I stood up. Carlos looked up, that smug smirk still plastered on his face, waiting to see what the desperate, average woman would do next. I grabbed my full glass of Coke and held it over his head for just a second, long enough for his smirk to falter, for him to realize I wasn't kidding. Then I dumped the entire thing. It poured all over his hair, streamed down his stupid face, and completely soaked his shirt. He just sat there, eyes wide, looking utterly shocked and pathetic. The shock on his face was almost worth the pain of his words. Almost. I grabbed my purse, turned, and walked out without a single backward glance. I could hear Alex gasp, "Holy shit," as I left. If you're still with me, feeling that punch to the gut, make sure you hit the subscribe button. You won't believe how much messier this story gets. So yeah, I'm back. This whole situation is long and messy, and honestly, I'm not sorry. Some people will probably say I'm crazy for even sharing this, but at this point, I truly don't care. I needed to get this out, and frankly, some of you are the only ones who might actually get it. Last night ended with Carlos trying to roast me alive in front of his friends, like I was just the punchline of his twisted stand-up routine. I still can't believe I actually poured that drink on him. It felt good, I'll admit, for that split second. But then, as soon as I walked out and hit the street, I started shaking. My hands trembled so much I couldn't even get my keys out of my bag for a full minute. I just stood there, staring at the traffic, caught in this weird whirlwind of rage, shame, and a bizarre urge to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so completely insane. My hands were sticky with coke, and all I could think was, is it really over? Did I just do that? Of course, my phone immediately started buzzing. Carlos, then Alex, then Carlos again. I ignored every single one. I walked the 2 blocks to the parking lot and got into our car. Yes, our car. It's in both our names, so don't even start. I wasn't stealing anything. I sat there in the dark, trying to decide if I should drive home or just sleep in the car like some reality show reject. I went home in the end, because where else would I go at that hour? Honestly, I was hoping Carlos would be stupid enough to try and beat me home so I could lock him out. But apparently, he stayed at the restaurant, probably soaking wet and making a scene. Classic Carlos. I got back to our place, tossed my shoes in the hall, and just stood there. Everything looked exactly the same, but it felt utterly alien. His jacket still on the hook, his shoes by the door. That dumb mug he uses for his morning coffee, sitting on the counter with a crusty ring at the bottom. I actually thought about throwing it at the wall, but I didn't. Maybe because I knew I'd have to clean it up. Or maybe because I wanted him to see it, sitting there like a giant middle finger. I washed my hands, changed out my nice top, and put on old sweatpants. I left the front light on for some reason. Maybe I wanted him to know I wasn't hiding. Carlos didn't come home that night. I heard him buzz the door around 1 a.m., but I didn't let him in. My phone kept lighting up every 15 minutes. Calls, not just texts, and I could practically feel his anger radiating through the screen. At 2 a.m., I finally blocked his number. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening for footsteps, half wishing he would try to break in just so I could throw something at his head. But he didn't. In the end, I only got about 3 hours of sleep. When my alarm went off, I stared at the ceiling for a while, then got up and made coffee like a zombie. You know what's wild? I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd wake up and realize he'd been a total jerk and at least try to apologize or act embarrassed or something. Nope. The first thing I saw when I checked my phone after unblocking him for like 2 seconds, yeah, I know, pathetic, was a wall of text that basically read, "You embarrass me. You owe me an apology. You're blowing this out of proportion. Alex and Becky think you're crazy. You need to come fix this." I just stared at my phone. Is this real? Is he actually doubling down? Not a single "I'm sorry." Not even close. He tried to guilt trip me about ruining his night and making him look bad in front of his friends. Like, dude, you did that all by yourself. I started typing out this massive response, but then I stopped. Why bother? He doesn't care. He just wants to win. That's what it's always been with Carlos, honestly. The need to win. To look like the smartest, coolest guy in the room, even if it means stepping on everyone else. I think that's what really hit me in the face last night, harder than anything he said. It's not just about me. It's about how he needs to feel above everyone, even if it means humiliating the person he's supposed to love. I don't even know if he believes half the stuff he says or if he just likes the reaction. So anyway, I went into full autopilot, got dressed, left the apartment, and drove straight to my parents' place. Yeah, I know I'm 32 and I should have my life together, but honestly, I needed backup. My mom opened the door, took one look at me, and immediately went into full mom mode, offering coffee, toast, a blanket, whatever I needed. My dad was already up, watching the morning news. And when I told him what happened, well, let's just say I've never seen my dad look like that. He just sat there, jaw clenched, fist tied on the armrest, and said nothing for a full minute. My mom kept asking if Carlos had hit me, if I was hurt. And when I said no, she looked almost disappointed, like she wanted a clear reason to hate him outright. I told them everything every word Carlos had said. And my dad just got up and walked out of the room. I heard the garage door open about 5 minutes later and his car pulling out, but I didn't even ask where he was going. I spent the morning at their place, sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee, scrolling through social media, pretending to read emails. I kept waiting for Carlos to show up, but he didn't. Instead, around noon, I got a string of texts from Becky. She never texts me unless it's for a birthday dinner or some group thing, so I was already suspicious before I even opened it. The first message was, "Hey, are you okay?" And then, "Alex says Carlos is freaking out." Followed by, "He's telling everyone you lost it and attacked him in public." But I know what really happened. I stared at that for like 5 straight minutes. Becky, the girl who sat there last night, scrolling Instagram while my husband ripped me to shreds. Suddenly, she wants to play Switzerland? Sure, January. I texted back simply, "Thanks, I'm fine." She immediately replied, "He's calling everyone. He's saying you were drunk, that you embarrassed yourself." I almost choked on my coffee. I wasn't even drinking alcohol. The audacity. I said, "I had a Coke." He had 3 whiskeys. She hit me back with, "Yeah, I know, but he's in damage control mode." I just put my phone down. I realized right then that if I didn't do something, this was going to turn into a whole crazy wife narrative, and everyone would believe him because that's what Carlos does. He spins the story until everyone doubts themselves. So, yeah, I decided to get ahead of it. I posted on my Instagram story just a picture of my empty wine glass with the caption, "Sometimes you realize you're the only sober person in the room." It was petty and stupid, but I needed to do something. Within 10 minutes, I had DMs from 3 of Carlos's friends and 1 from his cousin. All like, "What happened? Is everything okay?" I didn't answer any of them, but I screenshotted every message. Receipts, baby. Around 1 p.m., my dad came back. He walked into the kitchen, didn't even look at me, just started making a sandwich like nothing happened. My mom asked where he'd been, and he just shrugged and said, "Out." I didn't push it. 5 minutes later, there's a knock at the door. And who is it? Carlos. Looking like absolute hell, hair still sticky from the Coke, eyes wild, wearing yesterday's shirt. He didn't even bother to call or text, just showed up at my parents' house. My dad stood up so fast his chair scraped the tile. My mom put her hand on my arm and just whispered, "Don't move." Carlos came in trying to act all wounded and victim-why, like he was the one who needed comfort. He started going off, loud, demanding, trying to force an apology out of me in front of my parents. He kept saying I humiliated him, that I made him look bad, that I crossed a line. My mom told him to lower his voice, but he kept ranting, waving his arms. Then he started getting close, right up in my space, way too close for comfort. My dad stepped between us, just physically inserted himself, and told Carlos to back up. Carlos tried to push past him like he was entitled to just get in my face in my parents' kitchen. My dad shoved him back, not hard, but enough to make it clear he wasn't kidding. Carlos lost it. He started yelling, real yelling, full volume, swearing at my dad, saying he had no right to interfere. At this point, my mom was shouting too, telling Carlos to leave, and I was just sitting there shaking, trying to decide if I should throw my coffee at him or my phone or what. Carlos tried to go around my dad, but my dad blocked him. And then Carlos actually grabbed my dad's arm like he was going to move him out of the way. My dad shoved him back again, this time harder, and Carlos stumbled into the counter. He looked at me like I was supposed to come to his defense, and I just stared back. Carlos finally stormed out. My dad just stood there breathing hard, and my mom started crying, which just made me want to scream. I went upstairs and locked myself in the room. My phone was blowing up again. Missed calls from Carlos, texts from Alex. "Oh, dude, what happened? Call me. This is getting crazy." Even a message from Becky. "Did he really come to your parents' house?" Word travels fast. I just ignored everyone. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to my parents argue downstairs, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. Honestly, I thought about just running away, driving somewhere with no phone, no social, just disappearing for a while. But the more I thought about it, the more pissed off I got. Why should I be the one to run? I didn't do anything wrong. Carlos is the one who blew up his own life, not me. And if he thinks he can just spin this into some crazy wife attacks, poor husband story, he's got another thing coming. So here's what I did. I started pulling up every group chat, every old text thread with his friends, his cousins, even his mom, who, for the record, has always kind of hated me, but I didn't care. I typed out one message. Nothing dramatic, nothing wild, just the facts. What Carlos said at dinner, word for word, how he acted, how he showed up at my parents' house and tried to fight my dad. I added, if you want to know why I left, ask Carlos what he said about me last night. I sent it to everyone. And then I blocked Carlos again. I know this is just the start. He's going to hate me for it, but honestly, good. I want him to feel what it's like to have people look at him sideways, to have to explain himself, to lose control of the story for once. I want him to know he can't just steamroll everyone and walk away clean. If he's going to be a villain, fine. I'll be the villain's worst nightmare. See how that goes. So yeah, if you think this is over, you have no idea. I'm just getting started. Okay, here goes. If you follow my three-ring circus of a life for the last week, or whatever, you know I was not about to just sit there and let Carlos burn everything down and walk away like nothing happened. This is the last update, mainly because for once I actually feel like I can breathe, or at least like not constantly check over my shoulder for some new disaster. But yeah, you all want the messy details. So buckle up. This is what actually went down after I basically lit a match to my old life and watched the whole thing blow up. After I sent out that group message with all the receipts, screenshots, his own words, even that bit where he tried to make my dad out as the villain, because anyone who's ever met my dad knows he's the most chill human on earth, unless you mess with his kid. The fallout was immediate. It was like I dropped a bomb right in the middle of every group chat, family thread, even Facebook Messenger, which I haven't used since like 2017, but apparently that's where all the aunts and uncles live now. The responses were all over the place. Some people wanted to pretend it wasn't happening. Some tried to both sides it, classic. And a few, like 3 or 4, actually messaged me privately and said, okay, wow. I had no idea. Alex sent a string of IDK what to say, but I believe you texts, which was honestly more than I expected. Becky ghosted for a while, then came back around with some half-assed, hope you're okay message. It is what it is. Carlos, though. Oh, Carlos. If you told me at the start of all this that he'd just get angrier, I would have believed you. But I did not expect the way he doubled down. He started texting from every number he could get his hands on. Honestly, I think he bought like 3 burner phones just to get around my blocks. He sent emails, DMs from random old accounts, even tried to get my cousin to pass me a handwritten note at my parents' house, which my cousin read out loud at dinner just to make a point, and then tossed in the trash. The note wasn't even an apology. It was just more of the same. Blaming me, blaming my parents, blaming the system for turning everyone against him. If you're wondering why Carlos acts like this, honestly, I've spent way too long trying to figure it out. It's not just about me, it's about control. He hates looking weak, hates not getting the last word, and he's always been a little obsessed with what other people think. But instead of dealing with his own insecurities, he just lashes out and tries to make everyone else feel small. I wish I'd really seen it before, but I guess you don't know what people are like until you stop playing the role they want for you. The next few days were a blur of drama. My parents' house turned into Grand Central Station. People dropping by, calling, texting, everyone wanting the real story. My mom was half proud, half mortified. My dad just kept telling people to mind their own business. I crashed on the guest bed, eating leftover pizza, and scrolling through Instagram stories like it was my job, trying to block out the background noise. It felt weirdly normal and totally upside down at the same time. Someone would send me a meme about messy breakups. Then 2 minutes later, I'd be getting a call from Carlos's mom demanding I fix things before it's too late. I started leaving my phone in the kitchen just so I could get 5 minutes of peace. At first, I thought maybe Carlos would just fizzle out. But then he started showing up everywhere. It was almost funny, except it wasn't. He'd lurk outside my parents' house, sitting in his car, texting me to come talk. Once he knocked on the door so hard, I thought the glass would break. My dad answered that time, just opened the door and stood there, arms crossed, blocking the entrance. Carlos tried to push past him, but my dad didn't budge. They had this weird standoff, just staring at each other. My mom started yelling from the kitchen, and I just watched it all from the stairs, clutching the banister like it was the only thing holding me up. Carlos finally left, peeling out of the driveway like some bad movie villain. And then, because, of course, he started pulling other people in. First, his mom. She started calling my mom every day, sometimes twice. It got to the point where my mom just silenced her number and left the phone in a drawer. Then he started messaging old friends, try to get them to talk to me, like maybe they could somehow convince me to be reasonable. One of his friends actually showed up at my parents' door, all nervous, carrying a bag of donuts like a peace offering. He stood in the hallway, shifting from foot to foot, and finally just blurted out, "He's not doing good. You know? Maybe you could just talk to him one last time." I just stared at him, then said, "He can talk to my lawyer." The guy left the donuts on the table and practically ran for his car. The divorce stuff started to get real at this point. I called someone my mom knew. Not going to go into details, but not some fancy lawyer, just a normal person who's done this sort of thing before. It wasn't fast or dramatic or anything like you see on TV. It was just paperwork, emails, meetings, more paperwork. Carlos tried to stall at every single turn. He kept insisting we work it out privately, then would turn around and post another story on his socials about betrayal and loyalty. My mom started collecting screenshots just in case. My dad mostly avoided the whole thing, except when Carlos tried to show up at the apartment again. This time my dad was waiting. He blocked the doorway, told Carlos to leave, and when Carlos tried to shove past him, my dad shoved him back, harder this time. Carlos yelled, tried to get in my face, but my dad just stared him down. Eventually, Carlos left, shouting over his shoulder about lawyers, and the truth will come out. It was exhausting, honestly. Meanwhile, I was trying to get my own life together. I found a tiny apartment across town. I spent a week cleaning, painting, buying random stuff I never thought I'd need. My mom came over with a box of old dishes. My dad brought a toolkit and fixed the door that stuck. It was boring, mundane, exactly what I needed. I started sleeping better, eating normal food, even laughing at dumb TikToks again. But still, every time my phone buzzed, I got this little spike of anxiety, like, what now? It all came to a head one Saturday. My cousin was getting married, and because the universe has a sixth sense of humor, both Carlos and I were invited. I debated not going, but my mom convinced me, said I shouldn't let him win by hiding out. So I went, wearing a dress I hadn't worn since before the pandemic. Hair done, makeup on point. I showed up with my parents, feeling awkward as hell, and immediately saw Carlos across the room. He was with his mom, both of them glaring. I tried to ignore them, just focused on catching up with my cousins, eating way too many appetizers, and avoiding the open bar. The ceremony was fine, but the drama started at the reception. Carlos kept circling, trying to get me alone. He cornered me by the bathrooms, started in with the same old speech. How I was ruining his life, how I was making a scene, how everyone was talking. I told him to leave me alone. He grabbed my arm. I jerked away and told him if he touched me again, I'd scream so loud the whole place would hear. He backed off, muttering under his breath. My mom saw the whole thing and came over, linking her arm through mine and steering me back to our table. She didn't say anything, but I could tell she was pissed. Halfway through dinner, Carlos got up and made a scene. He started arguing with his mom, then started yelling at me from across the room. People stared. The music cut out. Someone gasped. My dad stood up, walked over, and stood between us just like he did at the house. Carlos kept yelling, calling me selfish and a liar, demanding I tell the truth. My aunt tried to calm him down, but he pushed her arm away. My cousin, the one getting married, looked furious. Finally, the groom, who is not a small guy, walked over and told Carlos to leave. Carlos refused, so the groom grabbed him by the arm and walked him out. The door slammed, and just like that, the noise came back, and everyone went back to pretending nothing happened. I just sat there staring at my plate, feeling equal parts embarrassed and relieved. My mom squeezed my hand. My dad just sat back down and started eating again. People whispered, but no one said anything to me. A few friends came over and gave me awkward hugs. The rest of the night went by in a blur. Dancing, cake, endless small talk. Carlos never came back. The next morning, my phone blew up again. Carlos had posted a long rant on his socials about being betrayed by family, about lies and jealousy, about people siding with the wrong person. He tagged me, my mom, even my cousin. My group chats went wild. Some people unfollowed him. Some argued in the comments. some just sent me screenshots with crying, laughing emojis. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The whole world could see him for who he really was now. The legal stuff dragged on for weeks. There was fighting over stupid things. The couch, the blender, some old camping gear we never even used. Carlos tried to get me to pay for his moving costs. Tried to keep the security deposit. Tried to blame me for every little thing. I didn't give in. My parents helped where they could, but mostly I just kept my head down and got through it. Friends checked in. Some stuck around, some faded away. My life got smaller, but also quieter. Now, finally it's done. Paperwork signed, keys handed over, everything split down the middle. Carlos moved into a tiny place on the other side of town. He still posts weird stories sometimes. Cryptic quotes, sad music, the occasional selfie with some new friend who, to be honest, always looks vaguely miserable. I don't interact. I don't care. My mom still asks if I'm okay. My dad just grunts and changes the channel. I go to work, hang out with friends, water my plant, binge reality shows, and try to remember what normal even feels like. If you're waiting for some huge epiphany or happy ending, sorry to disappoint. There isn't one. I don't have some new, amazing boyfriend or a perfect life. I still get pissed when I think about Carlos. Still get annoyed when people ask about the drama. But I'm not scared anymore, and I'm not sorry. If anything, I'm glad I didn't let him win, because for the first time in a long time, I feel like the story is actually mine. So yeah, that's it. Carlos got what he wanted. A fight, an audience, a mess. But he lost the one thing he couldn't control. Me. And if he ever tries to pull this crap with someone else, well, good luck to them. I'm officially out. Thanks for sticking with me on this roller coaster. For real. If you're sitting there wondering if you should walk away from someone who treats you like garbage, let this be your sign. It's not easy. It's not pretty. But damn, it's worth it. I'm gonna go eat some leftover wedding cake now and watch dumb reality TV with my mom. If Carlos wants to keep shouting into the void, let him. I'm done listening. Have you ever had a fight to take back your own narrative? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.